Welcome to Section 31, episode number 270. I'm Dan Hammond.
And I am Rogue Schindler.
This week, we've got our catch-up talk. We're not going to talk about catch-up. We're going to talk about Origins. We went to 2 weeks ago. Rogue wasn't around, so we're going to go over that. I've got a list that says install, so clearly that was not the top of the list. We're going to talk about games we played at Origins, and we had a little card party, making party, scrapbooking party last weekend. We got some tribbles in. We watched another episode of the animated series. We talked about that, and then we're going to talk about coming up in the future, starting with the next weekend and then the weekend after. So let's go back in time first and talk about Origins. How many times have we been going to Origins, and is this the first time that we really didn't do any major events with our normal gaming group?
Well, I want to say this is like my fourth or fifth Origins.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Because we did test run, and then I came back the next year, but then I've done it every other year since then, alternating. So 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth, but like the fifth or sixth year since the first one, and it only seems to get better. I think the thing that appeals to me largely about it 2 years ago was really the breadth of original games, just little independent original games that I was able to find, and did not disappoint again this year. I played in a whole schedule's worth of cool games, and even managed to, despite that, run back and forth for an hour or two in between to go play some Pathfinder ACG.
Yeah, we did a lot of that. I felt like I think I kept track because the new, I don't know, have we discussed this game very much? I know a lot of our locals are playing it, but you have a deck, you can modify it between kind of organized play rounds, and your deck gets better and the scenarios get harder. But this is the first time. We lost like 3 rounds. Well, I lost twice with in the first week, the first path. We didn't lose it all the second path, but then I started again with a different character deck, and lost again. So it was really tough. And I think so. My total was 5, and 5 is 10 plus 4, 14. So I probably played about 15 or 16 games, maybe 17 games, and lost maybe 3 of them, which is, entertaining because previously it was difficult to lose, and now it really felt like it was on the line a lot.
Well, and the only 3 losses is kind of deceptive because I think at least half of those wins came down to the last or the second to last turn, and we really didn't think we were going to make it.
Yeah, no doubt.
They've definitely increased the challenge level, which is a little more brutal, but is also a lot more glorious when you pull out the victory. So,
I didn't realize that I had a big advantage by playing a character who had already gone through 1 tier's worth of adventures. So the deck was pretty well made up, and I wasn't taking very much in the way of loot through all the games, which was great for everyone else because got a few loot things in the second tier, but I had a lot of fun. It was, I'm hoping, I don't think it's going to go as well, but I'm hoping we can play as easily as we did at Origins when we're at Gen Con. You know what I mean? Because every time we wanted to play, we walked up, started playing.
Oh yeah, that was great. Well, it sounds like we'll definitely at least have a chance of it being that easy. I know it was really popular last year. It really came down to it, but you could usually walk up with generics. Some of the busier sessions, they didn't. They had to turn people away, but they were, they at least had to go through that. It was busy enough that they had to take people with actual tickets first, and then try to piece together tables from people with generics. This year, they have twice the number of tables. They're going to be in the Sagamore Ballroom with the rest of the Pathfinder RPG stuff. So literally, Paizo is taking over that whole room this year, which is kind of amazing, but also a little bit of a downside, which we heard, because instead of being able to go into the night the way they did a little bit last year, the specials need those tables in the evening, so they're going to have to cut it off around 6, I think. So, lots of tables, but a little less hours. I still think we'll be able to, we got tickets for several sessions already, but I think we'll hopefully be able to walk up for the open gaming sessions, because they listed specific adventures for tickets, but they also listed an open session for each slot too. So hopefully we'll be able to get in and try to play through. I'm interested to see how it goes when we both have brand new characters, because you got a couple for the second go around with new characters. You got a couple of sessions in on me before
Yep.
we played that last one. I was brand new with my second character in that last one at Origins, and not only did we lose, but you actually straight up died.
Yeah, and it was one of those, you never explore. I guess I was feeling a time pressure. You never explore when you don't have a spell out, especially if you're the spellcaster. And I just didn't look down and didn't see that I should not be exploring. That was just silly.
Yeah.
I think I had 3 adventures done, and we were going back and replaying one. And I was like, I didn't need to. I wasn't even supposed to be here. So at the very least, I do get 1 upgrade, because when you die, you get to take part in the loot poll for your new character. But so yeah, I'll be Radillo the second will be making an appearance. That'll be fun. And I'm also looking forward to seeing, since it was a playtesting session for the second tier, the second adventure path. Yes,
That's right. Adventure 2,
Yeah.
for organized play, we were playtesting that and giving some good feedback, trying some things out, trying to figure out exactly how clear it was. Pretty brutal, but interesting, really tough, and so it'll be interesting to see how. I think what you were about to say, how what our feedback from. I know there was another couple of groups playtesting as well there this year. How that pans out for any changes by Gen Con.
Do you think they're going to have tier 3 ready?
It's possible. I know that Tannis is really good at turning those around pretty quickly. It's 6 weeks away.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean,
Wow.
and again, the Adventure Path 2 was just a bunch of printouts, with test this and give feedback. And if that's what Adventure Path 3 was, I'd be more than happy to, run through it, and it's kind of a buzzsaw it is. That'd be fun.
I was gonna say, at the very least, I wouldn't be surprised if she had Adventure 3 there as a playtest for people who are interested in doing the same thing.
Yeah. So we did that pretty much Wednesday. I think I played Wednesday, and then some Thursday, a little bit on Friday, a lot on Saturday, and some more on Sunday. Pretty much any time had some downtime or time between games or time I could just disappear and play a bit. That was a lot of fun. But that was sprinkled around actual games that we signed up for. So we played. Which one was first, the Core or the Firefly game? I can't remember.
Firefly was Wednesday night, right?
Yeah, okay. So this company has been doing some pretty awesome games for the last at least 4 years or so.
Yeah.
That we've been going to. Because I know I played Firefly at least twice. I think they ran, or someone in that room ran, an Avatar or Core game before, but they also did Battlestar Galactica, which I got to play in previous years, and there was some other. Was there another something else that we did with them? I don't remember.
Avatar, different versions of Avatar, Firefly, Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
I played a Stargate game with them. They also run Farscape and Seven Seas. So a good diversity of games, but properties usually. And they're one of the groups that I found just completely by accident, because I was looking for Avatar games. An Avatar game, and they had a Firefly game, and so I think we discovered them 3 years ago, maybe.
That sounds about right.
And just I have been going. I'm a huge fan of them. I keep going back to them. I actually started, corresponding with one of the GMs there and convinced him to run a Dresden Files game this year, because I was really excited about that, and there were some other people who were as well. It's a group called Matinee Adventures, and they're just a conglomeration of GMs who like running games at Origins.
Yeah, It was. Yeah, I think, like I said, I think I've played the last few years. We played Firefly a couple of times. We played Battlestar a couple of times, and the it's interesting that they kind of keep rolling the Firefly story along. Like this year was the the fallout from some one group's poor decisions last year, and I'm hoping that next year is fallout from our interesting decisions this year because we had a
Yeah,
fun time.
our fortunes.
Yes, our fortunes. Finding plot that the game master was not aware of, and then I think if I were running the things, that would make it interesting. You got some loot that everyone wants, and they're trying to get you, and you got to get rid of it and get rich and retire.
Yeah.
And that's never going to happen because that's not the kind of thing that happens.
Yeah, they're all of them are really good GMs, and I played another game with them, the Dresden Files game, and a Battlestar Galactica game this year with them, and always, as always, they're very good about they play real kind of more role play uh, emphasis rather than the sort of D&D hack and slash emphasis, um, which is nice. And it's sort of in universe. If you like that universe, you can show up and play, and you kind of have a feel for what you're going to do. And they usually play with original characters, but in that universe. And they do a great job of really wanting to, it's not like, oh, I want to do X. Oh, well, that's a good idea, but you don't have that skill, so you can't do that. It's no, okay, that's a great idea. Let's see if we can work out how you would manage that. You talk to the engineer who actually has that skill, and so on and so forth. So, they're really good at enabling creativity in the players, and really sensitive about making sure their players have a good time. Dean, who ran our Firefly game,
Mm-hmm.
also ran the Battlestar game that I played in. Um, I had the misfortune of picking the character that probably was least suited for this particular plot. Because it was much more suspenseful, and I happened to pick the heavy, and so I was kind of role playing his impatience to kind of get things moving. I want to get back to the ship. Why aren't we doing this? Come on, let's go, let's go. And at points I was like, I hope he doesn't feel like I'm being like that as a player. I hope that it's coming across as a character. And he actually sent out an email and apologized to me personally because he felt like his GMing was not up to snuff for that particular session, and he like dug out the tickets, found out who had registered for the game, and got their email addresses, and emailed everybody personally to apologize. And it wasn't the best game I've ever played, but it was fine. It was a a puzzly, suspenseful. What are we going to do? The silence could be here in any moment thing. And I had a good time, even though I didn't have anything to do. It was kind of interacting with other players, but it was really cool that he felt that he took the effort to go and find who played and express that it's things like that make me want to keep going back to that group.
Yeah, certainly. I on the whole, I had a great time there. Previously, I want to say that I didn't enjoy our Korra or Avatar games in the past as much, or maybe because I didn't have a good of a grasp of the universe. Um, but I was willing to have another go at it, and we did a Korra game this year. This was not run by that group; it was run by a different guy who had his own system that he was running. Um, Again, I didn't feel it was as it was an interesting story that he made up.
Yeah.
The folks that we played with, I want to say, were all from the same Cora table last year, right? Pretty much.
There's certainly people who we have played together before. We
Yeah,
had played with at least two of them before in the previous score games
yeah,
with at Matinee. Yeah.
yep. And that I don't know if that also if the difference between the two is in that universe you're playing one of the main characters, so you have a certain thing you're expecting to live up to, right?
To a degree.
So I kind of had a better grasp of who the characters were this time. Um, uh, don't think I would do that again.
You said you just not like playing the canon characters,
I don't know.
or is it for that universe?
I definitely felt the constraints of it being a kids show. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that.
and the game was run at that level. I didn't think that things were. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I just wasn't digging into it as much as I could have. I didn't feel like the game was um, as meaty as the Firefly game or the Battlestar games in the past. Um,
Okay.
it was a lot more fluffy.
Yeah, I can see that being. I mean, that's just sort of a facet of the universe, and I think that probably comes through with trying to make it as realistic and as reminiscent of those universes as possible. Certainly, Firefly and Battlestar Galactica are really going to be dark and gritty, and you're out in the verse, and you know. Avatar and Korra think bad things are happening, but there's comedic relief and yeah, I don't know. It's funny you should mention that because the Korra that guy ran both the Korra game and the Airbender game that I played in, and he had mentioned it's like okay, Korra is a little bit more adult, so it can be a little more gritty, and uh, I felt like the storyline for his Airbender game was really kind of serious, and we got pretty serious. And there was a point at which Zuko, again with the penetrating dice, just wrecked an entire side of the field with a big wave of fire, and actually almost killed the Avatar, which was pretty funny. We kept making jokes about it's like all this time you finally, you're friends with him, and now you kill the Avatar. It was all part of your plan, right?
Nice.
Yeah, you can't do anything right. You suck at being friends. You suck at hunting down the Avatar. But it's like okay, well, this is a kids show, so you wave a fire so then they all get knocked out. It's not they're not dead. Um, but I can certainly see from an atmospheric point of view if you have that in mind, and I'm sure subconsciously he was probably portraying it in sort of that fashion to be reminiscent of the show. Then you could probably feel like the stakes are not as high. Um, Even though you were
Yeah.
kind of the central stakeholder in that game.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. Maybe that was a poor choice for me to play. But anyway, um, not to say I didn't have a good time, but I probably would not choose to do that again. I think I would. If I was going to do two games again next year, I probably would drop the attempt to get into the Firefly and try to get into the Battlestar because that was. I do remember that being a little bit more entertaining and it
Yeah,
kept my interest a lot better. I was really
cool.
starting to wonder. Sorry.
It's all right. And I apologize for I really enjoyed both of those games, and I think um, part of it, and I can see how we talked a little bit about this last Korra game where you felt a little bit under pressure to you know be that character who you weren't familiar with as much, and how one of the characters was like probably had the least amount of screen time, and it was like I don't know what to do because he's barely on it. Um, and then I had a similar discussion with with some of the GMs there at Matinee Games, and I was like, I feel like for a con game, it might actually be better to have the canon characters because you come in with the idea of okay, well, who is this character? How much can I learn about them in the 5-10 minutes I have to read this character sheet before I have to try to enact what they might do. Whereas if you come in with those canon characters, if it's a licensed game like that, where it's Star Wars or Avatar or Firefly, you come in and it's like, okay, I know these character. I know if I'm playing Jane, I know exactly where his motivations are. I know exactly how he would react to things, and I don't have any questions about how I'm going to role play that. So,
Yeah, but that's
but
kind of the beauty of those pre-gens that they used is you can kind of tell who they're based on, or especially with the you got the pictures. This is kind of like a version of Jane who also is a
yeah,
mechanic, or this is the pilot who is not very smart. I I don't know. I feel a little more
well,
flexibility with the non-mains.
yeah, and you do have that flexibility of being able to take it and do your own thing. And it's funny. the actor in me really enjoys getting to do the, because it's really, when it's at that level of role playing, it's basically improv acting, and you get to go in and play those characters, and that's the part I really enjoy. So I guess that's probably why I prefer playing the canon characters. Um, Whereas you're a little less centered if you have that, but again, you get to bring your own creativity to it.
Yeah, and perhaps letting everyone pick first and not just grabbing something that I'd be better off in, and getting Asami was not the best choice, but whatever.
I could have given you Korra.
Yeah, see, that's also not what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I didn't think you wanted to be center stage.
No, certainly not.
That was entertaining. Well, that kind of falls in line with one of the things I was going to talk about, which was now you've played. Have you played the Dresden Files game with us before? Okay. Do you remember us talking about the character creation aspect of it?
Yes, in that it takes a long time, I think. And part of the story, I mean, you if I remember correctly, you make half of your character and then you show up, and then everyone else helps you make the second half of your character. Does that sound right?
That's basically it, yes.
Okay.
So one of the games I played in was a 2-part game, and I was lucky to get into both parts with almost the entire table. We had the same table, even though it was on different days, which worked out really well. And the guy who set this up, if you're not familiar with the Fate system, you basically character creation is description of your character. It's not numbers and stats and everything. It's my guy is a detective who is also a wizard, and he had this happen to him in his upbringing, and here's a unique aspect that shaped him from that, and here's what happened as he was growing up and he became that, and so on and so forth, and you create aspects. And so he created, it was original characters from really funny concepts, really interesting concepts, but he only did the first 2. So you got the background and the idea of the character concept, and then you spent the first half hour of the game doing the second half of the character creation, where you say, okay, I know where I came up to basically being a rookie in whatever field I'm in, and now I tell the story of here's what happened next, and then here's what happened after that, and pass it around the table to show who guest starred in each other's stories. So you have a little bit of a pre-gen character and all the stats are already fixed, but you have become invested in that character along with other people at the table. And it was a really, really cool experience, even with a table full of strangers, because it skipped that step of you don't have to have the canon characters where, okay, we already know each other, so let's go. But it's also skipped that step of who are we and why are we in this inn and why are we taking this job together. No, we already know each other, and it helps you get to know the other players by interacting with them immediately. It was a really, really great idea, and I was a little, we started, I was like, are we really going to spend time on this? We're going to take up precious time of our limited 4 hours, but it was by far the best thing that we could have done, and it really impacted the rest of the game. So
it's pretty lucky that you managed to get the same group of people at both tables then.
Yeah, well, and even if it was just for that one session, it was totally worth it.
Okay.
But it did save us the time when we did it the next time. We had one different player, and so we added in a little bit of things for different characters. So he joined in, but yeah, I think it was totally worth it, even if it was just for that 1 4-hour session, because it really brought us together and gave us that connection to move forward. So maybe that's something more interested. I really love that system, and I think it's a great system for a con game like that, because you don't have to know anything about it. You just walk in and roll some fate dice and say, I want to do this. And I do it because I'm a private eye wizard, private eye. All right, let's do it.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right. So did you? So you played in that game? You played the game with me, the Battlestar game I missed, and the other game with me. Did you play any of the other? What else did you manage to crash? Since you pretty much booked yourself almost all the time, right?
I did. The only thing I didn't book was 8 a.m. Slot on Wednesday, because I didn't want a chance not getting there in time. And it was a good thing, too, because apparently they didn't open the RPG GM booth until 7. So there were a lot of late people. for that 8 a.m. slot, including GMs. So I'm not sad I missed that. But I played Dresden Files with Matinee Adventures Wednesday afternoon, Firefly Wednesday night, My Little Pony miniatures game with your daughter Cordelia Thursday morning, which is a lot of fun. It was surprisingly fun. In fact, this woman and her husband made these incredible crafted, like 8 to 12 inch tall houses, like replica houses of each of the main six's homes in Ponyville, and they put them out on a map like we use for D&D, and you had your little ponies, and they had a deck of cards, and they were most of them, it was like Candyland-esque, so it was like, okay, move 3 spaces, move 6 spaces, move 1 space, and you'd move your ponies around. You had to go to each house and collect a gift to take to Princess Celestia for her birthday party, and then whoever won was going to be the winner, but there were also like challenge cards, like, okay, generosity. You can either move 6 spaces, or you can move 3 spaces and let the person in the last place move 3 spaces. And if you ever, gave in to one of those challenges, you got, a point for generosity point, or magic point, or a kindness point for each of the elements of harmony. And so at the end, there was a winner for the race, but then also each of the 6 players, whoever had the most points in each of those elements, got a prize for being you represented for this game the element of laughter, or the element of honesty. And so it was really cool. All of the little girls there had a really good time. The big girl who was there with me also had a really good time, which happened to be a friend of mine that I had no idea was at Origins, and I only know from Dragon Con. And I happened to turn around, and we both did the same thing. We had to read each other's badges because we're used to seeing each other in costume. And we're Facebook friends, and we're like, oh my god, hey, how's it going? And we had a great time kind of shepherding the foals around the table, as it were. And that was really surprisingly well thought out and planned, and even from a game design perspective, because they clearly made this from scratch, pretty well balanced. So that was actually pretty fun. Did Dresden Files 2-parter. We did Legend of Korra. I also did Avatar Airbender. Remarkably, both games independently came up with a really obscure solution to completely different problems, which is the Avatar independently saying, I'm going to take his bending away. and it was totally justified in both cases. I did it as Korra to this guy who was treating non-benders like crap. And I was like, all right, you don't like that? Let's see how you like being a non-bender. And in the Airbender game, Azula had broken out Ozai and was trying to retake the Fire Nation. And she just couldn't be trusted. They tried everything. And so Aang was like, all right, Azula, you can never hurt anyone ever again. And takes crazy Azula's bending away.
Wow. That's interesting, because I feel like that might have been my idea in the first game, someone clearly wasn't there for the second game, so someone else must have come up with it. That's funny.
Completely. And there were 2 people in both games, and neither of us mentioned it in the other. Yeah, I really liked that guy who ran that, because he did an interesting thing where whenever the supporting characters showed up, instead of role-playing all of them himself, he handed them out to different people. And so there was almost an entire table's worth of supporting characters, so everybody got to play one of the cool supporting characters that they liked, as in addition to the mains. The guy who was Uncle Iroh was just perfect.
That's awesome.
And did like this completely improv, heartfelt, buck up speech to Zuko when he was blaming himself for everything. It was awesome. Just a great table. Both of those were really interesting. I only had one real horror story, and it's a great story, as it turns out. It was worth the experience for having the great war story, but I'm not going to tell it here because it's kind of lengthy, and you've heard it before. But and it's a little weird. Let's just be honest.
All right. Now
Uh,
that I know what story you're talking about.
but
Yes,
I
that's
feel
probably it.
like some people would really like it. And so if you're at Gen Con and you want to hear my horrible origins war story, it involves My Little Pony and a role playing game and a weird system and some awkward people. And not it's not bad about ponies. In fact, that was the best part about it. But I had to walk out for bad reasons. So find me at Gen Con and I'll tell you my Little Pony war story from Origins. But aside from that game, I had 9 sessions. One, two, see, 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 sessions in 5 days. And, to have only one go poorly is kind of incredible.
That's pretty good. Pretty good odds.
Yeah.
So that takes us out to Saturday night, right?
Saturday night, Artemis.
That's right. So we actually to bring this back to a Section 31 related topic, a big con, sure. But we saw on or I think you found it on the agenda that they were doing an Artemis combined bridge simulator and marine based laser tag. So we would have ships fighting and then laser tag crews fighting each other, marine boarding actions and all kinds of stuff. And we thought this is going to be awesome. We need to sign up for this. And
Yes.
so we played Saturday. It was like 7 o'clock or something like that. And
Yep.
um, unfortunately, to be fair, I don't think we've ever sat down to play and not had technical difficulties. Would you agree? We haven't.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. So they told us that something wasn't syncing up properly with the scenario that they had planned. So instead, they said instead of having the two ships fight against each other and then we'll have the Marines, fight against each other, what we're going to do is have the Marine versus Rebel thing going on one side with the laser tag, and then the two ships will fight together in this border war against this whole field of just it was an insane amount of star bases on the other side of the neutral zone. And they started out saying, who really needs to be on the bridge because they can't do laser tag. And Migraine Dan said that was me. So I joined that crew. And I think you were pretty keen to play laser tag, right?
Well, I was fine to do either, but because you had already signed up for the bridge crew, I figured in the interests of our limited internet journalism credentials, I should do the laser tag so we could at least see what happened in both games.
Right. So we got paired off. You went that way and I went my way. I don't ever know. I don't know which side I was supposed to be on. If I was on the Rebel side or if I was on the Marine side. So I don't know if we both won or we both lost, or you won and I don't know. However it worked out. I was on the ship and I was thinking, because we played, kind of pre-gamed, right, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And of all the things I did, I felt like I was the most efficient playing the engineer because moving, transferring power from one place to another, just it was a lot of fun to make everyone else better.
Yeah.
And
You're
so,
hard.
yeah, right. As I'm standing there, I hear that there was enough people so that all the people who wanted to play on the bridge were all going to be stations, and they had two guys who really knew Artemis who were going to be the captains. So, when they were talking to each other, and he specifically said, as long as we have good engineers, we'll be fine. And I'm thinking, all right, perfect. This is it. It's a shine. And I sat down, and we kind of get separated, the two crews. And I'm looking around, and someone said, "Hey, so what do you want to play?" And one of the ladies said, "Well, the only thing I've ever played and the only thing I'm ever good at is engineer, so I need to do that." And I thought, "Oh, boo."
Oh no.
So it was then I had to find something else, and no one wanted to. Wanted to play tactical, so that was fine. You can play tactical, you can shoot things. Someone really wanted to do sensors; they were good at that. Someone wanted to do comm, and that left helm. And so I said, well, that sounds good. I've done helm before, and they had a joystick set up, which was new for me. I think at one point I had set up a joystick and just did a quick little demo to check to see if it would work. And if you're familiar with the controls at all, you use the keyboard for what warp you want to go to, and then you hit spacebar to come out of warp and drop everything. With the joystick, you have to push one of the 3 buttons or 4 buttons on the joystick to go to that warp speed, and then you pull back on the joystick to gradually slow down. There's no cut engines. So it
Oh
was,
man.
yeah, I couldn't do the come out of warp and be in orbit and, the when
No.
you come to a star base and the tractor beam comes on and you're just all of a sudden you're there and you're stopped. It was a lot of slowing down gradually and yeah, we passed it. Sorry. Not used to this thing, Captain.
Wow.
Sorry. But what was cool was all the stations were touchscreen monitors on top of that. So none of the other stations had keyboards. It was just you got a stylus and you're doing TNG style, touching the screen, doing whatever you need, which was great. Except the side of the screen looked like someone sneezed on or something, so I couldn't.
Oh,
It was docking controls were not good, and on the whole, though,
need
had
some disinfectant wipes for.
yeah, had a great time. I felt like I was at least competent at helm. There was 1 or 2 times when made mistakes, but really, it was the least of our worries. We had a captain who knew what he was doing. I think our severity level was 7 or 8. I think out of
I
11.
heard someone say 8.
Yeah. So I felt like we were kind of up against it. We did a lot of just warping out across the neutral zone, going around things, and if anybody's coming our way, we'll veer off and take out that contingent, and then go back and reload and rearm. And he was doing a good job keeping all the star bases making the right, making nukes or making homing missiles or EMPs, and it was a lot of launch an EMP to the center, launch a nuke and get some distance, or the other move that that definitely we will do next time we play is you load up mines and you just fly right through them and launch mines as you go. And as long as you're going at least warp 1, you're going to be out of range when they detonate and take out everything in their formation. It was amazing.
Wow.
It was really cool. That was fun. There's
Wow.
there's one of the things that makes that reasonable possible is that thing in a video game when you run up to something and you just kind of bounce off and keep going. You don't actually take damage when you crash into things.
Yeah.
So once that gets fixed, that may not be a strategy anymore. But I think with a good pilot, you can kind of pilot around things because ships don't park right next to each other. There's a good amount of space in between them, so you could probably thread the needle and get through and drop mines and then just keep going.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun. We were kind of in a friendly competition with the other ship. So if we overheard they were going somewhere, we would just gun it and get there first and blow everything up and then head back. It was a lot of.
I was watching and I overheard something about you guys stealing their nukes at one point.
Yes. So they had one starbase, made a bunch of nukes. So we fired all of ours and then went over there and picked them all up and then head back. One of the things that the starbases did was they were overcharging our energy, which let us stay out a little while longer. That probably helped an awful lot. I think that was kind of one of the scenario helpers because there were a lot of bad guys just everywhere. So one of the things we run into when we play is just the ship's always just run out of energy and we're in a dead stop. We got to convert torpedoes and then head back out. But we had enough energy to go out, do something, and turn around and head back at a reasonable speed. And it was a lot of fun. The comm person was going back and forth with the other comm person, and keeping busy, which comm is one of the things that I usually feel like there's not much to do. It's if you're going to be annoying or role playing something, that's the one station where you can do it because it doesn't matter, as I've done. So, but they had something to do. Sensors was always there were so many enemies. Sensors was always doing something and yelling at tactical. What frequency to set the phasers to. Tactical was busy all the time, and the captain was just kind of cool, collected guy. Was just issuing orders and seemed to be in control the whole time. It was great. Had a good time. I would definitely do that again. Maybe. The caveat is it felt a lot like our Friday night, and we could do that on a Friday night and not spend a couple hours at a big con doing that. But if they get their act together and get the Marine thing down so that everything's working together and we're working against another ship or we're working in tandem with a Marine team, that could be entertaining again. So I would be willing to give it another try if they do it again to get things going. So on the other side, there were the Marines, and
Yes.
uh, have you ever been on Memory Alpha for a while, and eventually an advertisement comes on?
No, I have not.
Stop. Yes, stop.
It must be new.
Stop. Mute. Mute. Thank you. All right. Anyway, I was going to ask you how the Marines went.
Uh, the Marines were decimated thanks to us rebels.
Oh, well, good.
No, it was interesting. The setup, and he laid it out for us afterwards, so we could kind of get an idea of what was happening. Was they had a bunch of PVC frame walls to create this sort of maze, and they used butcher paper as you know to fill in the walls, and you could run around. And the premise was one team. We had 12 people, so one team of 6 was the rebel team, and they started in the maze, and they were basically had taken over this base, Federation base or whatever Artemis belongs to, in protest of something, and we're trying to hold it, for their allegiance. Yay, go rebels! And the Marines. The idea for the original scenario was that the Artemis was going to have to come in and fight through whatever ship was there defending the base to drop off their Marines. The Marines could go in and take back the base from the rebels.
Okay.
So both teams had very different scenarios. So we had, as the rebels, we started in the base. We got about 5 minutes to walk around and kind of get an idea of the layout. And we had unlimited respawns, but with a timer. So once we died, we would go back outside. Someone would reset our guns, and we had 3 minutes before we'd come back in. But we always had time to come back in. What we did not know at the time, and neither team knew each other's parameters, which was kind of interesting, was that the Marines had a limited amount of life. So they had to be a little more cautious. They had to come in, and there were 2 rooms that you had to find within the base that had chairs, and they were signifying like a computer station. And they had to have one of their teams sit in that chair for 10 minutes and do nothing else. You could shoot your gun.
They had to do that?
Yes. And that was supposed to be them hacking the system, trying to retake the station, and then open the airlock so that they could evac. So that the way that it was set up, there was one kind of big open room in the middle, and there were 4 offshoots, and 2 offshoots led to these computer rooms, and the other 2 offshoots led to exits at the end. And then in the middle, on one side of the wall of that central area, was a big airlock. And once they did that, they could go, and then they could escape out the airlock. And if they did that, they won. We had to we had to defend them off the whole time and kill them all, basically. And they had a medic, so they could keep regenerating them, bringing them back. So they would die, but then they could come back immediately if their medic got to them, or they called in their medic. Whereas we had to run out, time out, and come back in. So that timer of respawning while having unlimited respawns was nice, turned out to be a very big deal. The other thing that was unbeknownst to us, although I suspected it almost immediately, was each of the rebels was handled an envelope and then told to go off and read it by themselves. And I was like, oh, we get to find out who the traitor is, I said jokingly. And then read my little envelope that said, you are a very loyal rebel and you want to hold this for your cause, but you suspect one of your compatriots may be a traitor and you should keep your eye out for them.
Right. So somebody got the envelope that said, betray your team whenever you want.
Yes. And of course, it was the guy who was the oldest guy there, and so he was being very helpful and directing traffic as we got there. It's like, okay, why don't we set up here, and we can all focus this way, and when they come that way, we'll do this. When they come this way, we'll do that. And he's the one who turned around and betrayed us immediately as soon as the Marines arrived. So it was 7-on-5 almost immediately, and we all got slaughtered almost immediately. And so then we kind of crept back in, and there was an interim of fighting back and forth. And we didn't know why, but for some reason they had they held the central area, but they had largely holed themselves up in one corner. And so we're like, okay, well, at first we thought they had the traitor hostage for some reason. Maybe they had to capture somebody and have them help. And then I saw him grinning out at me, and I was like, "You little bastard!" And so we did a good fight back and forth. We only respawned. The woman who was respawning the rebels kept saying, "Wow, you guys took a long time to die. Most teams take a lot long or die out here a lot quicker. I was not. I was much busier earlier today." And I was like, "Wow, okay, cool, thanks." And so we kept going. And then at one point, I noticed that they were all choking in up in there, and I just kind of went charging in. And as it turns out, they were all pretty low on life and waiting for medic regeneration. And I was able to just pow 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 and take out the rest before they could do anything else. One of the cool things about it was that the guns, it was very self-sufficient. You had your one gun that was about the size of a carbine, like a P90 or something that was not a full rifle, but not certainly very difficult to hold one-handed. And the sensor was on that, so there was no vest or headgear or anything like that. So there was a little bit of an honor system where anytime you came around the corner, you had to make sure and poke your gun out too. You couldn't just look and see.
Sure, yeah.
But it had a pretty decent angle, like a 100-degree angle on the front arc, and it gave you a number of hit points. You had like 3 full hit points, but it also had variable ammo that would recharge at a different rate. So you could do a quicker recharge that would do less damage. It would only do like a half a hit point damage. Standard that would do a full, and then like a super mega shot that would take off like half your life. But it was a really slow recharge. And then you also had a shield that you could trigger, and for 15 seconds you would only take half damage. But it would reset after 3 minutes. You couldn't use it again for 3 minutes. So that's how they would recharge us when we would run out and respawn. They'd trigger our shield, and when it said our shield was back online, we could go back in.
Okay, sure.
And so once we knew where they were and they were holed up, and I knew my backup was coming in behind me, I turned on my shield and I put it on maximum recharge, and I was just like, I'm going to, because everybody had been doing like the spray and pray. Mm-hmm. And so I came around the corner and I waited for my shot and I fired. And I came around the corner and I waited for my shot, and I was like, wait until they see me. Instead of trying to get the sneaky shot, I let them see me, let them start shooting at me and bounce off my shield, and then take my massive shot. And I just happened to get lucky in that everybody had less than a massive shot's worth of hit points left.
Nice.
And it was, 3 corners, bam, bam, bam. And I was like, yes, suck on that. Suck on that, 7 on 5.
So when you said they were holed up, were they holed up in the room where they had to make somebody sit for 10 minutes? Is that what they were doing? Or were they just...
Yes.
Okay. But you didn't know that because you didn't know that. All right.
Exactly. And so after that, they kind of told us what was happening, and that was interesting. And then, or they didn't tell us all of it. They told us about the traitor. And obviously that wouldn't be a surprise again. They're like, you guys want to go again? Because they're still playing Artemis. So we did it again, 6 on 6. And oddly, kind of having a better idea what we were doing this time, and without a traitor, the Marines won.
Wow.
So,
okay.
And a big part of that was because we didn't know what they were doing. We got the idea of them wanting to be in that room for some reason, somebody in there in the second round. And so I kept trying to charge in there. And so we waited and we respawned in a group. Even though we could go back in, we went in a larger force so we could charge and take that room, knowing that's what they wanted. And so we charged right past the big central room to get in to stop them, and there was nobody there. Yeah. And we charged to the other room, and there was nobody there. And in the meantime, they had opened the airlock, and they were running outside, which happened to be their win condition. So,
wow. All right.
It was really interesting not knowing, what exactly their goals were on each side.
All right. Well, I was not on the Artemis. I was on the Intrepid. So that means that must have been the rebel ship. So I'm going to declare that since you won, I won as well.
Yes.
All right.
Victory for all.
No, it was a good time. Like I said, if they managed to get things working, one of the things I was not looking forward to would be a ship battle, ship versus ship, because that's tough. I kind of get the feeling that, the team that said who wants to be bridge personnel and we went off to the side, it was because we all knew what we were doing, and we were going to be the bridge crew, right? And we all formed the Intrepid bridge.
Oh,
And so the other group, I mean, all things considered, we probably would have had a pretty big edge there. But
yeah.
still, player versus player, not as much fun. What?
The thing that I would have found interesting in a PvP situation for that was seeing how close you were. I don't know. While I was observing, I could kind of vaguely overhear them from the other side. I don't know if you were too busy to really focus on any of that, but I would have been interested in, like, hard about, load torpedoes. I'm like, ooh, they're loading torpedoes. They're coming about, do we know that?
Yeah, that would have been interesting, and I think I heard snippets here and there because the way we were set up, we had put up a little like a little pop up tent things, the little tarp. What do you call them? Yeah, little things. So it's just like four
like a
posts
big
and then the
picnic
tarp on top, and then there was a wall between. They were sitting next to each other, and a big wall between us that was probably made of the same things that your walls were made of. A big sheet, but
Yeah.
we had the big, flat screen TV on one side, and I'm guessing on the opposite side was their flat screen TV. So they were facing us, and we were facing them. So they were talking at us, and we were talking at them. So
Yeah.
they might have, maybe they would have put a little bit more insulation between the two if we were against each other. But that said, I was listening to the captain tell me where to go, and listen to the science officer tell me headings to go to, and trying not to run into asteroids, and trying not to hit every single one of them as we went by. So I probably not. Maybe, oddly enough, maybe the communications officer, who was just kind of reading things off every once in a while, would have been in a good position to overhear what was going on next door. That would have been fun.
Right.
But,
yeah. The feeling I got from it was, I mean, unless they did this interaction thing again, because I got really excited when I saw they had Artemis on the schedule, and then I went, but wait, we can just do that at home. But it was like, the thing that appealed to me here would be like being able to do something that we don't really usually have enough people to do, which is multi-ship combat, either versus or cooperative, and that seems like it would have been something worth coming back for.
Yeah, I had, I don't know where I got the idea, but I had the idea that we were going in, it was going to be, 8 ships worth of people at once, just all flying around, because that would have been
Oh,
madness. That would have been
wow.
fun.
Yeah.
That's only 40 people. We probably could do that, but as things were falling apart and the connections were dying, I could see how that wouldn't be so great. But that would have been really entertaining. Even if they forego the laser tag part, if we just had just a bunch of capital ships running around, either
Oh,
on the same
yeah.
side or 4 versus 4, I could go for that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we easily could have done 2-on-2 or a 4-ship fleet with the people that we had.
Yeah, because then you got to have Commodore riding around trying to direct traffic between the 4 ships,
Yeah.
lest the captains go off and Calhoun on their own.
I'm guessing. Did I mention this? I don't know. Maybe I just saw it on Facebook, but there is a Artemis convention. Like,
Really?
yeah, I discovered this like the Friday before it was happening. I think it was in May. It was in mid-May. It was in Cleveland. I don't know if it's always in Cleveland or if it moves around. I only happened to notice it because a Facebook friend in Cleveland mentioned the traffic because of the Artemis con, and I was like, "What? There is an Artemis convention? How did I not know about this? And why am I not there?"
Wow.
But I have to imagine if there's a whole bushel of people there just for Artemis, then there's got to be massive fleet combat going on.
See, that sounds pretty fun. I'd be down for that. And
Yeah.
wow. So a convention strikes me as not just a bunch of people sitting down in front of their computers playing, but also they've got panels on simulation design, and this is the scenario rules, and this is how you do triggers, and you can learn to program the thing so you can do what I think Jim wants to do, and that's run a game.
Yeah.
Set things up and BQ in the background, pitting Klingons against Federation, or That will be entertaining. All right, well, we'll have to look that up for next year.
Artemis Armada 1.
And skinning for different, because the TNG mod that we did was beautiful. I'm guessing that's probably not something that you could do at a con because Star Trek is not something you can
Yeah.
pay money for anymore. But wow,
Yeah, here it is. It was at the DoubleTree in Cleveland in April. It was the weekend between WonderCon and Celebration. So, yeah, don't really see how that could have happened, but uh bring your laptop and join us in a ballroom that will fit 20 bridges.
20 bridges sounds amazing.
Oh, crew special missions. Doors open, play Artemis. Panel discussion, scripting in Artemis. Tales of training celebrities. Application. DMX lighting and electronics. Yeah, this is exactly what you were imagining. Lunch with Tom, who I think is the creator.
Mm-hmm.
Canonical battle. So I guess there's a storyline game. Costume play with the game master.
I was
Admiral.
disappointed that I was the only one who was wearing a shirt with a Starfleet insignia on it.
You know, it actually occurred to me, and I was kicking myself when you were there, and I saw it, and I was like, why didn't I bring it? And then I realized I actually did think about it, and then I was like, I don't know, is that going to be taboo because it's not Star Trek? It is, but it isn't. I think at Origins it would have been fine. At an Artemis Con, maybe less so.
Well, our captains were in, I want to say,
They
some
looked
kind
like
of Starfleet uniform looking thing.
they one of them had an Artemis logo on his
Okay.
patch on his shoulder, so I think that was like an original Artemis costume.
Well, that sounds entertaining. Is there any note about when it's going to be next year?
It is. There's not. So we might have to keep our ear to the ground for something like that and see if it's something that's going to happen again, and hopefully maybe travel somewhere else closer to home.
Yeah, I take that. That'd be fun. All right. Anything else about Origins before we move on? We've been going for a while, so we probably ought to move on a little bit.
No, I think that's it. It was great as always. I had a great time. I'm really desperate to go back. I really wish I didn't go every other year. I wish I could go every year. I think I might run a game next time. Um, just to, I don't know if they let you just run one game, but I really like that there's all of those independent games, and it's a good outlet for things like that. And I have a couple ideas I think would be fun to just run one shots, play test at home, and then see if people like them. That's like it's like Dragon Con. I talk about Dragon Con where you can go and wear your one obscure costume and people will get it. Like this is where you can go and run your one weird obscure game, and there will be at least 4 people who are interested in sitting down and running and playing in that universe.
Yep, you can fill up a table with whatever you want, probably. Yeah, at
Yeah.
least one, right?
Yeah. I feel like there needs to be a 100 role playing game or role playing session for the 100.
Right. All right. Then let's move on. We had a brief scrapbooking party on Saturday. I don't want to say brief. We kind of wrapped up a little bit sooner than everyone thought. We got everything done, so that was great. We had a couple rounds of triples, and so you remember when we had the triples regionals, and I said I was looking through all my boxes and I couldn't find the deck that I wanted to actually play.
Yeah, did you find it?
No, I didn't. I can't find it anywhere. It's got to be around here somewhere. So, everyone's sitting down. We're getting ready to play triples between whatever, and I'm looking desperately for this deck that I know I put together and put somewhere, and I can't find it. So I'm like, all right, well, here's a deck here. I just looked through it. It was, I think, one of my early IDSE decks or something. So I shuffled it, sat down, and played. First couple rounds, I felt like I was in it. I think I scored 100,000 on a score, or I was a toxin. So I'm doing okay. By the third round, I realized that there were not very many ones in the deck, and before the fifth round, I went and actually counted, and there was one. There was one in the entire deck. And I had
Well,
managed to play it most rounds. It just come up, but you know how unencouraging it is to play triples without ones and no 10 advances either, just no ones because you took them out for a different deck.
oh, and you even if it would have been better if you at least had no ones, and you could have at least tried for achievement.
Yeah. No, I had one. I had one process.
Oh,
Yeah, wasn't even a go or something. So at least I didn't come in last, but there were 4 of us, and I didn't win that. We made a bunch more cards, had some pizza, and then played again. And I put some ones in the deck, and I felt like I was in it. I might have gone out at once ever, maybe not. Yeah, I think I went out once, and I think Charlie ended up winning that one
what
by.
one could you be so short-handed on that you had to take it out of another deck?
The only thing I can think of was this deck was a lot of foils, and I thought, ooh, these ones are all pretty. I'll take them out and put them in this deck.
Okay,
So
that I can totally get behind.
yeah, so I put it back together again, and it was fun to play. It was just there's a lot of random powers. You know how it is with the ideas.
Yes.
You just what am I going to play this time? Okay, shall I use the power? Maybe. And it was much more fun. I still didn't win, but I felt like I had a better chance. So anyway, had a good time. Had some great pizza. Made a bunch of cards. The best thing I heard all day was something about uh, how many Janeways are in this pack, and someone said 5, and Thomas from across the room just goes, "Oh," just verbally shudders at the thought of 5 Janeways in anything.
Oh,
Uh, that was funny. So anyway, yeah, we got all the rest of the Continental promos done, so they're being shipped off to Australia, I think tomorrow. The next set I gave to Char. I'll probably carry the foils with me to Gen Con, and I think we're waiting on the mats. We're having a problem with the mats. So once those come in,
oh no.
we'll be able to send out the whole kit to Germany as well. I think they're in Germany this year. So that's going. We've got a lot of the Worlds promos done. We're still missing the tribbles, but that was because of a problem with the property logo and the aforementioned cards for the other thing that maybe I'll get in trouble for mentioning, but whatever. And there were tribbles, and we had a great time. So and we wrapped up early. I think we wrapped up before 8 o'clock, before 7 o'clock. Like I said, we were very efficient and got stuff done, and that was that. So there's a bunch of kits up in the promenade. All the tribbles are back up there, and the first edition and second edition kits. So go purchase. And I'm looking at the forums now. The raffle prizes are up. There's a bunch of raffle stuff. There's a bunch of single ticket per person raffles for a lot of the Decipher promos. We had some great feedback. A lot of people like the single ticket pers for those. So this time, since it was kind of got a late start on the raffle bins, we put a bunch of singles up, and we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
If as many people put tickets in as we did last time, we'll probably do the same thing again. I kind of put a lot of Decipher promos up this time, so I think I took about half of them up, half of what we got. So we'll do the other half next time, and if response is good, we'll do it the same way. If not, maybe we'll go back to the old way. That leads us to the next thing, which is the Lorelei signal.
Oh God, yes. Okay. Actually, I shouldn't grimace at that. I'm mostly grimacing at the animated series, but I actually felt like this was the best episode story-wise yet. I think it was
the best story. Okay, yes.
It was the most solid plot.
Yeah. They go to a planet. They get called in. The ship's disappearing every once in a while, and the Enterprise is sent to investigate. Sure, I like it. They get a distress signal. Sure, they go investigate it. People start hallucinating, and Uhura starts kicking butt and taking over the ship because all the guys are off their rocker. Yeah, and they beam down, and I want to say, was it Kirk that requested an all-female security team?
Spock.
I want to. Did Kirk ever make that request?
Well, I'm sure he made that request many times throughout the history of his captaincy, but
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. As soon as you said, I was like, wow, that sounds like something Kirk would call for like all the time.
yeah, no, at one point Spock, because they're being drained of their energy,
Yeah.
the men, and the that's at one point he says we're aging at a rate of 10 years per day, but Spock is Vulcan, so he ages more slowly, so he has the energy to go out and try and make contact. He contacts Uhura and says, "Send an all-female security team to rescue us."
And I think Uhura might have said something like that as well
Yes,
early on.
she was way ahead of the
Yeah.
curve. She way before they figured it out on the planet. The women were upstairs taking care of business. She and Nurse Chapel.
And there were engineers that were getting stuff done, and
Yeah.
the science team doing scans, and that led to one of the. I was watching it with my family, and it was probably like a commercial break they came back from, and it just kept going, and we all started
Oh my
looking at each
god.
other, and
Yeah.
the so
Scotty's
Scotty is singing, and
drunken singing.
yeah, and it's like the ship is slowly orbiting the planet while he's singing, and the ship can't possibly go any slower. And you only realize that he's not going to stop singing until the ship's past the planet, and it just keeps going on and on, and he keeps singing. And then finally, they cut to the bridge, and he's just there with a dumb look on his face. That was probably the worst part of the entire episode.
Yeah,
Before
and
he even,
Uhura's like, Scotty, I'm going to take over command so that we can look after the welfare of the crew. And he is just like, oh, that's we nice of you, lass. No, you can't take command from me or whatever. I love that happened to you because I was watching it, not necessarily with my family, but Caitlin was in the room. She was reading her tablet, and she at, at about halfway through, she finally looks up and she looks at it and she looks like, "What is happening?" I was like, "I don't know. Scotty's drunk. Drunk at
uh,
the wheel. Slowly ambling across." And for that was, as you say, that was the worst part of it, particularly because the biggest issue that we have that's recurring with these episodes is they don't have enough time to really tell the proper story and have
and
wasted
yes,
so much time on that.
yes, and yeah, that's exactly right. They gloss over an awful lot, which could be explained a little better, and
Yeah.
then they spend that time just dragging out something that takes way too long. uh, I'm sure, like, as I mentioned before, it's sensibilities of the time for pacing of shows is vastly different now than it was
Sure.
uh, whatever 40, 50 years ago. So
Oh, yeah.
uh, I uh, I aside from the singing, there were a lot of parts about this episode that I really liked. There were a couple of shots where you can see like Kirk, Spock, and McCoy all kind of their heads tilted and they're all looking the same way and they all have a dumb grin on their face. Like, it's just hilarious. That was perfect.
And the voice acting is clearly like everything's a little slurred, and
Yeah, yeah,
McCoy's got his accents thickens up a little bit the way it does when he's drunk,
yeah.
and
And Kirk, yeah, was very. It was slower than normal, and not in the kind of pausey slow. It was like just slow.
yeah, just
Yeah,
in a dream-like state.
yeah. No,
And
I, I think I would have to rate this. Of the well, how many we watched? What it feels like 12.
this is episode
Now?
4.
4. Okay, I'd probably put this up there. It's early on, but I'd probably put this up there pretty high. Um,
I Yeah, I would incline to agree. It's certainly quality that we have yet to encounter.
quality we have.
But and it's cool, and I could totally. This is one where I can see that it might have been an episode where they were planning to do this on the show,
Yeah.
and they could, finally have Uhura step up and kick some ass, and
Mhm.
Christine Chapel comes in and help, and whatever other females they have on that week. Um, uh, Captain, Redshirt. I was surprised the Redshirt did not die. I really thought he was going to be maybe an older red shirt, so he would die before the rest of them because he was aged out.
Sure. Yeah. That would.
But he survived and came back. I did note one major fall, which was when they were out hunting for when the men escape on the planet, and they're like, "Where are they? Let's go chasing after them." And well, they're hiding. I guess we can't find them. And then Uhura beams down and says, "Where are the men? Tell us where they are." And they're like, "Oh, okay. Well, let's ask this magic TV that knows everything. Where are the men of the Enterprise?" And it zooms in just where they are, and they're like, "Why didn't they do that when they were looking for them before?"
Yeah, there was a lot of that. If you package that together with that, they just don't have they're doing a lot of things right. The women on the planet, they've got the magic, juju, but they just don't have. For some reason, they can't turn the corner on certain things like that. There's that. Between that and we lure ships here, ships that are capable of taking us off this planet, but we never bothered to try that.
Yeah, but we kill them all, sucking them dry before we can do anything.
Yeah,
and the other thing that bugged me was I don't know. It didn't really bug me so much, but the kind of info dump at the end, it was like, oh, well, yes, you found us out. Background exposition. Here's our 5 minutes of background, and it's all really interesting. And in a full-length episode, they probably could have meted it out a little bit at a time, have them discover things, and make that
was interesting science fiction-y stuff that I'm glad that they were able to squeeze in there. But yeah, you're right. That would be the kind of things that Spock and McCoy discover, through scans of their biology or whatnot. Yeah. They left us a tricorder. I wonder why. I don't know. Well, let's use it to break out.
And like a ship a year or a ship every 27 point blah 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 years has disappeared all the time, exactly this time apart, like their Ponfar or whatever, and not a single crew's worth of Klingons or Romulans or Federation had enough females to rub brain cells together to figure out what was happening or try and stop it.
Yeah, clearly things have not advanced as far as they could have until then.
Yes. Well, thank God for Lieutenant Uhura.
Yes, very good, Lieutenant Uhura. So you want to do cards? Do you want to pick a card from this episode? Why don't you go first this time?
Well, I kind of want. I was while I was watching it, I kept thinking of like gender dilemmas.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, what I want most from that is, Nyota Uhura, Commander USS Enterprise.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. Yeah, I would definitely take that. I mentioned earlier that still of them all just kind of dumbly looking forward with stupid grins. Even Spock had a stupid grin on his face. That or McCoy hallucinating with that flower, the person with the whatever, or Spock with the it's a ceremonial wedding drum or whatever, and thump thump thump. I think any of those would make an excellent a gender-based dilemma. Something along the lines of, it just captures the whole ship unless you've got enough women to
staff it,
women and men or something. Yeah. Unless you have adequate female to staff a ship, that's great.
Yeah, you have a set of requirements, and they all have to be fulfilled by female, like officer or leadership, and engineer, cunning greater than whatever.
Yeah,
your men are placed in stasis.
That sounds like a very 1E dilemma too. That'd be amazing. All right. I also had thought about those headbands that they had on. That would make an interesting equipment, but I think I mentioned equipment last time. So yeah, we're gonna go with a weird gender dilemma based on that dopey grin, everybody staring at the camera. That's what I want.
Awesome.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. This would be the perfect episode for an Uhura card. Just like I think last time was a good Scotty card, because Scotty did his own thing, but even more so with Uhura this time, no doubt. All right, last thing, since we're way over our normal time. Next weekend, you told me it's Free RPG Day, and that kind of ties in what we start out with, right?
It is International Free RPG Day. Most major game stores will be having something. A lot of game companies are participating. WotC, Paizo, any number of other RPG groups will be sending out free stuff, and you can go and play. Some places are like $5 to come in and stay, which I don't get since it's free RPG day. But maybe you get a free copy of it if you go and play. I know a lot of them do that. That's where some of our newfound favorite RPG one-shots have developed. The Paizo Pathfinder Weeby Goblins modules started as free RPGs. There's a new one this year, Weeby Goblins Free. And if you are a fan or wish to become a fan of the Pathfinder ACG that we've been talking about, the adventure card game, they are also giving out a new Goblin character class set of cards. So you get a set of 4 cards in a little pack, and that's going to go out with the ACG. So you get the little token card, the main character card, the role card, and then a card that explains what everything does.
Nice.
And
mirrors the Ransack that came out last year, right?
Exactly. So just like Ransack, but different. It's I can't remember her name, Screeky or something like that. But a new Goblin. The Goblin characters are always hilarious. All the promo cards in that are Goblins, and that's another one you can get for free. So if you want that to play with your game, go get it. Play in a free RPG, broaden your RPG horizons, or play something you already know and like, and have a good time. Get more people into it.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm going to try to hit up a place. I'm going to be traveling, so I'm going to hit up a place on my way out of town up in Central Valley. And if they don't have it, I might try to crash the place when I get back down to San Diego. So if nothing else, I want to get that promo. So I'm looking forward to it because eventually we're going to be able to play a team of all goblins because that'd be awesome, right?
I cannot wait. Another 2 years hopefully, and you'll have at least 4, and you can play. I suppose if you want to play 2 players, we could play with 2 right now.
Yeah.
But one of them is a major supporting character, so it would be tough. Hopefully, Riki or whatever her name is will be Iki. I think it's Iki.
Yeah,
maybe will be a fighter of some type that can that Ransack can hide behind.
Was it you that suggested that the ACG tournament at Gen Con would be hilarious if everyone was given goblins to play?
That's right. Yes. Oh, we forgot to ask Danis about that. We should just see her laugh.
Laugh. Oh no, that's clearly not what we're doing. Go away, guys.
Damn it! Why did you guess that? I mean, no.
Yes,
not at all.
All right, that's all I got on my list. We're through everything.
We're way past our intelligence for this week, but we had a lot of stuff to talk about, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. But thanks for sticking it with it. If you're still there for our Origins wrap up, we do enjoy our conventions and sharing them with you. Our next one, I think that for both of us, is Gen Con.
Right.
And we just booked our flights out, so we'll be out there for the whole time. Looking very much forward to that. In the meantime, we have to prepare for our 1E regional next week. Next week? No, a week after.
Saturday.
A week from Saturday, so 2 weeks. So still time to build a deck. We can talk more about that next week.
Yeah. I'm going to do the second half of my my weekend journey that week, so I'm going to miss it, unfortunately. I might.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's going to be just depressing for me in particular. So we'll talk about what we're going to do instead, and maybe I can get a game in at some point between now and then.
All right. Well, that's about it for us this week. We're going to play in some free RPGs and I will prepare for 1E maybe. And in the meantime, I am Sir Rogue.
And I'm Sir Dan.
And I remind you all to expand your power in the universe.
And I will draw to end.